All right, what is happening, everybody? Welcome to Justice Con round, what is it, 6, 5? I don't know what it is. I think I hit the wrong countdown too, by the way. But hey, you guys get the idea. It's fine. Yeah, we're starting off strong here, Dave. That's right. That's what it is. Anyways, guys, appreciate you guys clicking in. It's been a fun day. We got over $4,000 already raised. That's what it's all about. That is exactly what it's all about, which is awesome. So hopefully you guys are donating, doing all that. All the panels will have it. I'm sure if you look around, you can find the donation link, all that stuff. Whether it's desktop, whether it's on your mobile device, whatever it be. I don't know if it works on a smartwatch. I'm not sure if that's going to be an easy way to do it. But anyways, it's been great. The panels have been great. Everybody's been great. We had Ray Fisher, Ray Porter, all kinds of things that are happening today. And it's not ending quite yet. So I'm glad you guys are here, seeing all the orange and black hearts. Love it. Absolutely love it. So, without further ado, let's bring on the guest of honor. He needs no introduction, but here he is, Mr. Joe Manganiello. What's up, sir? How's it going, man? How you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. There's something weird going on with your microphone. It's kind of like jumping or clicking a little bit. I don't know if there's.
Is it clicking? Is it test, 1, 2, 3? Of course, the technical difficulties have to happen with me. Yeah, test. Are you still hearing it? No?
Still
yes?
Garbled.
A little garbled? I wonder if I go to my... Let's see here. Let's see. Girls, do you hear that backstage? Meg, you're backstage. Do you hear... How's my audio? No, you're not hearing it? Interesting. Let's see.
Now I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay.
Whatever that was is good.
Okay, so somebody did something backstage. See? There you go. We got people backstage that are handling it, man. This is what it's all about. But anyways,
now
all right.
It got jumbled up again. I don't know what to say.
Oh man,
can you hear? Can you hear me all right?
Oh yeah, I could hear you perfectly. But for some reason, let's see. Audio. Got my mics good. Let's see if I change it to.
Okay, now you sound fine.
Now I sound fine. La 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 la. Okay, good. All right. We good? I think we're good. All right. So we're good. No, it's not good, huh? I can see you shaking your head. I knew that was Let's see. Let me change it. Let me change my to the audio to my computer. Maybe that'll help. Let's see. Changing it there. How's that sound? Better? Worse? No. Still not good?
No.
Okay, hold on a sec. I'll try something here. Hold on. All right, here we go. I'm gonna let's see, remove, and then add you back. How does it sound now? Anything? Good? No?
It's like a caterpillar.
It's like a caterpillar. Interesting. You're on an iPad, huh? Are you on an iPad? Or like a tablet or something?
I don't know what's going on.
That's weird. Okay, so let's bring in Meg. How's the audio sounding, Meg?
Hey, it sounds
fine to me.
Joe, are you on an iPad?
Mm-hmm.
Are you on an iPad, Joe?
I'm on an iPad, yes.
Yeah, sometimes StreamYard doesn't like iPads, unfortunately.
Oh, that's it. So that's interesting. So that's what's causing the audio glitching here, huh? Okay. So is it still sounding bad, Joe?
No, you're okay for now. Hopefully it'll stay that way and it won't go out.
Okay. Man, you gotta love technology, man. I tell you what. All right. So I guess we'll continue and see what happens, huh?
All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
No problem.
All right. I'll click you out of there. Okay, Joe. So anyways, Joe's here. And of course, we're going to be, thank you for joining. I mean, this is obviously for a good cause and, fans coming together, putting this together. And obviously the Nerd Queens and Meg were just right here and they've worked hard on this. So we appreciate you joining. Not only can you see Joe in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but you can also see Joe in Shoplifters of the World, which just recently came out. And you also produced that movie too, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and I love your character's name, Heavy Metal Mickey, which I mean that fits. That's totally fitting right there for you. But were you a Smiths fan, or are you a Smiths fan?
Yeah, I'm a huge Smiths fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the film was a labor of love for people that don't know. It's about the Smiths breakup in 1987 and how
Yeah.
that affected a bunch of kids who were right around like end of high school age. And, it's based on this urban legend that may or may not have happened, in which a young man was so distraught over the breakup of the Smiths that he went and held his local hair metal station up at gunpoint and forced the heavy metal DJ to play nothing but Smiths all night long to impress a girl that he was in love with. And that's what the film's really about. And then I play the metal DJ. But yeah, I was a huge Smiths fan. I got into the Smiths because of all the theater kids that I hung out with at the end of high school and started doing plays with. They were the cool kids, and they were into the cool music, and they were into all the great indie bands of that era, whether that was Violent Femmes, Smiths, Pixies, James, U2 back in those days was still kind of an indie band to a certain degree. I mean, Joshua Tree was huge, but we're talking like some of the previous albums, and so yeah, man, I just was introduced to a whole new group of music and bands to listen to that I fell in love with and really became obsessed with new wave after that. And this film is really about those kids, the ones that usually didn't get attention in the 80s movies of, say, John Hughes. But it really is kind of like a Richard Linklater look at the outcasts.
Yeah, definitely has that feel to it. It's a nice little small movie. And one of the things I noticed about your character right off the bat when we first get introduced to your character is what is stitched on the back of his jean vest, which was Metallica's Ride the Lightning, which I'm a huge Metallica fan, which I believe you are too.
Yeah, I am. And it was really fun putting together that battle vest. I designed it with our costume designer, Gina Ruiz. And, I had a lot of input, and I wanted that old Metallica back patch, and we cleared patches with Motley Crue, Ozzy, Kiss, Testament. Everybody was really cool. Gene Simmons let us blow up a mug with his in the movie, and Ozzy and Sharon gave me Bark at the Moon to introduce my character. So there's a lot of love, and got to call in a lot of favors from some friends.
That's pretty awesome. So I got to ask, favorite Metallica album?
Favorite Metallica album? I'd probably say Ride the Lightning. When I found Ride the Lightning, that was the first Metallica album I found. I listened to it nonstop for about a year and a half.
Yeah, I feel you. Now I'm gonna have to go Master of Puppets though, because there's just something about that. I remember I got introduced to that in I think I was in 8th grade, where a buddy of mine, he had Reload and he had Master of Puppets, and the Master of Puppets CD was so scratched up. So when I put it in, I can only hear just the beginning of Battery, the rin din din, and then it din, 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 and then it started going, and then it just starts skipping. And I'm going, okay, I gotta get this. What the hell is this? Oh my God. And I went to Best Buy probably the next day and said, there it is. And I listened to that religiously, like crazy when I got it. So that's me right there, Master of Puppets. How many times have you seen him live?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, I've seen them, I saw them when they came through Pittsburgh when I was growing up. I saw them later on. I mean, I remember Comic-Con one year, they played a secret show that I got into in a small theater where they just did the greatest hits from basically, I don't even think they played anything off the Black Album. I think it was just Justice, Master, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and it was just speed metal thrash the whole way through. It was wild, and it was a small crowd, and
that's so good.
I caught Kirk Hammett's guitar pick and had it for many years, and
Jeez. That's amazing. I know. Got it. Yeah, I mean, we could probably go on and on about Metallica. We're not going to make this a Metallica panel, guys. Don't worry. We'll get into some Deathstroke, but I think we could probably do a lot on Metallica. But but I did hear that you kind of did sneak a little Metallica into your wedding.
I hired a violin and a cello player for our wedding, for the actual ceremony, and normally you walk down the aisle to Pachelbel's Canon in D, but I had heard a version of Nothing Else Matters violin and cello, and I thought it was beautiful. It was amazing. It sounded like a piece of classical music from an orchestra, and so I had them convert it to violoncello, and that's what they played when I walked down the aisle. And
Awesome.
yeah, and it was perfect. It was perfect because the people that knew, and the people that didn't just thought it was this beautiful piece of violin music.
Well, I mean, something about Nothing Else Matters is, I mean, it was like their first ballady type song. And I mean, if you go back to that documentary year and a half when they're making the Black Album, I mean, they talk about that song specifically where they brought in a composer and had, an orchestra. And then they always joke about it, how they kept on turning down the orchestra a little bit because they felt like it wasn't, oh man, we're striving too much away from our metal, roots. And then all of a sudden, they do the S&M thing, and it just melds so well with all the S&M, with the Metallica songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. So that's what I love about that. So anyways, let's get to know Joe a little bit more before we get into the nitty gritty. So you're born in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. When did the acting bug kind of just bite you?
Well, I made my own movies in high school.
Okay.
My high school had a TV studio, so I could edit. I could shoot on a VHS camcorder, and I could come in and edit, put soundtracks on. My friends and I figured out how to make homemade squibs. So we would do action movies with gunshots, and
nice.
My other friend was had multiple black belts in different martial arts, so he would choreograph all the fight scenes, and then I wrote like TV shows and game shows and things like that for and cast my friends in them, and so I was really like producing and writing and directing and acting in my own films when I was younger. That led me to senior year. Transition from sports. I played sports year round.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I had always been artistic, and I really thought, I could do this acting thing. So
I can handle it. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought, I knew it was in me. And,
yeah.
And then there was a theater teacher named Cindy Schreiner my senior year, who was very supportive and urged me to try out for the high school musicals, even though they conflicted with my sports seasons. She saw something in me and started nudging me in that direction. And I did try out, and I was cast. And so my senior year, I started doing plays. And rather than go to college to play basketball and go into criminal justice and wind up in federal law enforcement, which was my plan, I wound up getting a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon University, which at the time was the #1 drama school in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And I wound up getting a scholarship to go study classical theater there. And, the rest is history.
Rest is history. Meant to be. And then you get your first big movie, which over my left shoulder right here, looking at it right there. A lot of people might want to know exactly the significance of this poster. It's a rare poster because, well, after when these posters were released, which of course it says 3rd of May 2002, it does have the reflection of the Twin Towers in Spider-Man's eye, and you were Flash Thompson, of course, in this movie. And I hear you actually might have a poster. You have this poster as well, huh?
Yeah, I have one of those posters. And that was a very, I don't want to say polarizing. That's not the right word, but it was, it was controversial, obviously, because
of course
those posters were put up in theaters to tease the release of Spider-Man. And then, of course, 9/11 happened while the special effects were being put on. Actually, we had wrapped shooting, and they were in editing when 9/11 happened, which meant that they went in and digitally scrubbed the towers back out. But there was an original commercial that had the webs between
the helicopter.
Yeah. So, Spider-Man was one of the first, New York centric films that was released post 9/11, or certainly the biggest one. And so there was a bit of, there's a real sensitivity around that film, and all those posters were yanked. So anybody that has one of them, obviously they're one of the ones that were not destroyed. And they're also ones that we as the cast don't sign. You're not going to see those signed by the cast or by Sam Raimi because of the sensitivity of the subject, but they exist and people have them.
There it is. There it is. And I think, people wouldn't be against, with what's happening with Spider-Man right now with the whole multiverse thing. And we heard that Alfred Molina's coming back. Hey, a Joe Flash Thompson coming back. Why not? If that's in the cards, do that. Hey, keep by the phone. Why not? Would you, if they were to call you and be like, hey, we have this idea, would you do it for a Flash Thompson?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends on what it consists of. With Sony doing Sinister Six and putting together their Megaverse, and also with the X-Men coming over to Disney, the possibility of Secret Wars surfacing at some point in the future. I just think there are so many amazing characters in Marvel that and I will say that I was actually offered a part in a Marvel film a few years ago. That I grew up on Marvel comics, so if I was going to join the universe, I really want it to be the right role, and I think sometimes you have to hold out for that right one, and so a little cameo as Flash Thompson. I don't know. I'd rather do something. I'd rather do something more substantive, or somebody that could stick around for a while, or
multiple stuff.
A really great role in one of the movies.
Well, can you actually talk about which role you were offered, or is that just hush?
No, I don't think it's fair to the person who wound up being cast, and
makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like I just don't. I don't want to do that. I know it's like in vogue for people to dig up their screen test footage for parts that they didn't get to try to usurp the person who got it, and I've never been a fan of that.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I see the chat is just screaming Agent Venom, Agent Venom. They're all screaming that right now. But you know what, guys? We should be screaming this, of course. Slade. Now let's talk about some Slade. Now let's get to this here. So Justice League is happening. Obviously there's going to be a little, cameo from Mr. Slade Wilson. That's going to lead to something else. So let's talk about how you were approached from the role, call from Zack, whatever, the origin of you getting the role for Deathstroke.
Well, the origin of me getting the role for Deathstroke started 5 years ago.
Okay.
Well, actually, it started a long time before that, to be honest with you, because I had met Zack Snyder a long time ago for something else, and he watched True Blood, so he knew who I was. But then years later, I got a phone call that Ben Affleck wanted to meet me about a secret project, or about two secret projects. One that would shoot a day, one day in August, and then for 6 months the following year. And so I went and met with Ben, and of course we talked about his Batman film that he was going to write, direct, and star in. And I was the only person he was meeting with to talk about the villain, who was going to be Deathstroke. And we talked about some of the execution of that. We, of course, talked about Tim Miller's little proof of concept for Arkham Origins, that fight in the shipping yard between Batman and Deathstroke. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And then, a few days later, or a week later, they said, we need you in London right away. You got the part, come on over. And so that was, that was a decision that was made between Ben, the studio executives at the time, and Zack, because I ultimately was going to go to work for Zack for one day to shoot the teaser to debut my character talking to Lex Luthor about the identity of Bruce Wayne, the secret identity, and then I was going to go off and murder Batman.
I like it.
So that was kind of the start of it all, and we went off to Monaco. I shot one day with Zack on the yacht with Jesse, and then a whole lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, but before we go to all stuff happening, this got released, of course, which blew up the internet back. And I mean, everybody, I still remember when this showed up. I was walking out the door to go to work, and I texted my boss, I'm going to be late because of this right here.
Yeah, that's me in the suit.
Yeah.
For the first time, fully
Nice.
fleshed out. I'd been flying back and forth to London that whole summer, testing this suit out, and Zack and Ben got behind the monitors, and then the entire Justice League cast came out to watch.
Oh, wow.
Because they heard they were gonna, we were gonna be testing out, doing a little screen armor test of me in the armor. So the whole Justice League was crowded around the monitors with Ben and Zack, and I guess Ben pulled out his cell phone and filmed this off of the monitors during my test.
Yeah.
And then on his way, he was about to get on a plane, or he was on a plane, and he tweeted that out.
Yeah.
And then shut his phone off and went on a transatlantic flight. So no one could yell at him. No one could reach him. No one could stop him. He just leaked it out there. And even though I'm wearing a mask, everyone knew that it was me. They figured out that it was me immediately, because I guess they had known that I was in London with a haircut, high and tight with a goatee, and they just surmised that was me inside the suit. That was so fun.
That's so fucking. He just puts it on a plane, turns his phone off, and just says, "Good luck, internet." That's awesome. I love that. That's what you gotta love about Ben. And speaking of Ben's script, I mean, when it came to, you said he met with him, and I know while Justice League was being filmed, like Zack and him are probably like talking about ways to go with the script, and then of course Ben was talking with other people and developing the script. I mean, how much input did you have on Ben's script when it came to your character?
Like you mean how much did I read, or are you asking
like did you have any input into like Deathstroke, like for his script, or is it just he had the ideas and then you read and then you were just like, I like all that, let's do this?
Well, I got to read a lot of it as it was in progress and being written. So a lot of that was shared with me in terms of what the structure for the story was going to be, where I was coming from. I mean, there were certain things that I needed to know. Going into that teaser scene with Lex Luthor, I had to understand where I was coming from, what to set up, how I needed to play it. As far as input went, I mean, it was still being written. So what happened was, after we shot that teaser scene for Justice League, I went back home to LA and started my research process, which was basically, Deathstroke was in the military. I started building that story out for myself. And then of course, he has a katana, which is a real stretch when you're talking about former military. There's no military person that carries around a katana. And where did that come from? Obviously there's a League of Shadows background, but there was never really an origin story for the sword when it came to Deathstroke. So it gave me a lot of latitude to try to fill in the blanks and write that story. And so I through all my research, I wound up sharing all of that as they were writing the script. I was sharing with them research and articles and things that I had uncovered that I thought were going to be a good, solid foundation for, or an interesting foundation for the character. And when the project was canceled, then they were very interested in me taking that research that I had done. They had heard enough for them to become interested in the possibility of a Deathstroke origin film. So I took all that work that I had been sending off to them and kind of percolating on. I turned that into a 16-page treatment that I then pitched back to them and worked on with them over the course of 6 months. And out of that process, eventually, a director emerged that wanted to do the project. And then of course, that was canceled.
Yeah, I know. I hate the word cancel. I really do. But when it came to, you met with the creator, you met with Marv Wolfman. And because I remember you took a picture with him. I mean, how was that, just meeting the guy who created the character?
Well, it was awesome. It was actually a birthday present to me from my publicist, Lisa Perkins. She's awesome. She hit me up. She's like, I didn't know what to get you. So
so let me give you the creator of Deathstroke.
Yeah, I reached out to the guy who created Deathstroke, and he wants to have lunch with you. And I was like, that's the greatest gift anyone can give me. Thanks. And so I went and sat down with Marv, and I really wanted to pick his brain about the origins of the character and where he came from. And, I'm always very interested in what the spark of inspiration was in terms of creators, where these things came from. And Marv just couldn't have been a nicer guy. I love that guy, and we've stayed in touch since, and he's been really supportive. So hopefully we can get Marv what he wants.
Yes, like I said, I mean, and you've been having some fun too with the whole. I mean, you put some hashtags out there: hashtag Restore the Snyderverse, hashtag Deathstroke HBO Max. Obviously, we got the images that you got from Zack, which I'm going to show right here, which is just so freaking awesome. I mean, just amazing. The armor, the hair, everything, the Nightmare version, just so beautiful.
Yeah, these are up for sale, so people can go on my social media and click links. That image is up for sale. It is massive. It is like a huge, like 5 foot by 5 foot. It's this gigantic, beautiful art piece that you can bid on and own in the auction.
That's awesome. Yeah. So go check that out. I have one question though, because like there was always when it came to like when Justice League was happening, we all remember John Cleese kind of tweeted out a tease that he was maybe had a role in Justice League. And some people were actually suspicious that he was going to be playing Wintergreen for you. Maybe is there anything do you remember this, or did you hear anything about this? Okay. I've always wanted to, always been
I mean, I don't think it had anything to do with Batman. I mean, Batman,
probably not, huh?
Batman just kind of, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, there was this image right here because he had
so yeah,
yeah, he had a bunch of Batman books, and everybody was kind of going, well, wait a minute, like what is going on? He's got Batman Justice League books right there. What is happening? And I think a lot of people just landed on the fact that he could be playing Wintergreen, and it was like, oh, maybe that was going to be the case. So I just had to sneak that question in there because it's been on a lot of people's minds for quite a while. But I mean, obviously when it came to your Deathstroke script, you had Wintergreen in there. You had probably, and you also wanted to you wanted to have Slade not be superhuman yet. You wanted him to be pretty grounded.
It went back to that caterpillar garble.
Oh no. Okay, can you hear? Is it good now? We good?
Okay, try it.
Okay, I was like, when it came to your Deathstroke script, I mean, was there which characters did you like have in mind that you were going to bring into it? I mean, obviously, like Wintergreen probably was going to be one of them, and the kids, the wife. Who was going to be a part of your story?
Well, I want to make clear that it wasn't a script yet. It was
okay.
It was a treatment. It was an outline for the way that the story could go. So
yeah.
Who are the characters it involved? It involved Adeline, the kids who were young. They were going to be young. Wintergreen.
Yeah.
Talia.
Okay, see, that's where I wanted to get to, because in the nightmare sequence, when it comes to the costume, there is a symbol that Deathstroke is wearing that is very familiar, that a lot of people spotted when they saw the costume at the exhibit in Dallas. That ties to, of course, the Ra's al Ghul, the League of Shadows, and all that stuff. So, yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, well, ultimately, it doesn't really appear in the actual Snyder cut,
Yeah.
But the idea in my script, yeah. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but
don't. Yeah, it's fine.
There was an origin story for the sword, like I said.
Yes.
But and there were League of Shadows ties and things like that, and but really it was kind of like a. It was very like a more of a like a Tom Clancy ripped from the headlines sort of story, or even like a Born Identity, where it was very much, if you're talking about an origin of this character, you're talking about a man who came from the military. So it's going to be very grounded and in political and military drama, as far as what it would take for someone to go from devoting his life to this country that he believed in, to, having the rug pulled out from underneath him, and and being stabbed in the back and not knowing who to trust, and then exacting some sort of vengeance on the people that would have been responsible. And so, it was more of like kind of like a revenge story that took place within like, Washington, D.C. and the goings on of the U.S. government.
Nice. And then you've talked, you talked briefly too about Ben Affleck's script and how Slade plays a part in there, where it's kind of like, it's a psychological thriller. He's basically, I mean, and what's so great about at the end of Justice League is when Luthor tells him like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne, the little smirk that shows up, and it's like, oh, here we go. Now the game is on. I'm going to basically wreck this guy's life. And it was just basically going to be like, was it going to be like kind of like just like a cat and mouse game of Slade was just going to just mind fuck Bruce for a bit and then just battle at the end?
I mean, I guess, like the script wasn't finished, so there could have been a million different ways to go. So, you have to understand that, like, we're talking about, rough drafts or first drafts and things like that. So, it's kind of hard to say, well, it would have been this or it would have been that, because it was still like a work in progress. But, I think there was, at one point, there was an action sequence in the middle where Deathstroke just completely mauls Batman and Batgirl at the same time.
That's awesome.
Just the two of them against Deathstroke are no match, and he just mops the floor up with them, and they narrowly escape. So it was definitely going to be a lot of fun. There were some of the some of the regular characters who showed up in Batman. Yeah. We're in Batman films. We're not going to make it through, so it was going to be a cleaning house in a lot of ways. And I think it was, it was. The idea of it was fun for me.
Yeah. And I think, that does sound like fun, wiping out the Bat family. That's for sure. But I think that kind of plays into the nightmare sequence too, because I mean, it's crazy that Batman literally has to team up with some, villains of his, Joker and you. And obviously you're, Joker is off on his own little world and everything, but you seem to, Deathstroke seems to be all game. And, when it came to the additional photography and, when Zack hit you up to come back and do it, I mean, what was that like, just coming back and shooting with Zack and with Ben?
Well, it was really fun to come back after 4 years and put the armor back on.
How heavy is that armor, by the way? How heavy is the armor?
What's that? I'm sorry. What?
How heavy is the armor? Like 50 pounds or something like that?
How is the armor on?
How heavy is it? Heavy.
It's doing that garbly thing with your voice.
I don't know why.
I'm like reading your lips.
Heavy. How heavy? Like heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you spend all the time in the gym for, man, to carry around those suits. No, I'm kidding. No, it's actually it's surprisingly easy to move around it.
Was it?
And but of course, like, we weren't doing anything too strenuous. So when you get into action sequences or things like that, like we were going to get into down the line, we had lots of talks about modifying the suit so that I could move around in it easier. So it was almost like there was going to be a combat version of the suit, as opposed to, the suit that I just wore in kind of these brief appearances, the nightmare sequence, namely. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of fans out there whose curiosity is piqued as to how you go from I'm going to murder you and everyone in your social
family circle, in your circle, your contact list,
to we have to team up, because if not, us alone is going to be no match for what we're up against. Exactly. And so we have to team up. And I always had ideas in my head about how Batman and Bruce and Slade could wind up seeing eye to eye. I had a lot of those ideas. And so, hopefully we could get to those, because I think there's like some really fun and great stories. I think that the fans would really, there would be a lot of surprises and twists and turns as to how that would happen. But I definitely, I know in my mind, I definitely, broke a story as to how to get there. So, but yeah, I think a lot of people are fascinated by that nightmare sequence and want to see more. How did this happen? And
Dude, I mean, when you see that nightmare sequence, and I remember I keep screaming about this because even before Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, I went on like a post-apocalyptic wasteland movie marathon, Book of Eli, Mad Max Fury Road, and I'm just going, why can't we? And I mean, why would you not want to explore more of the DC universe in like this post-apocalyptic wasteland? I mean, the fact that, like I said, Batman, Deathstroke, and Joker teaming up together, and then you got Mira, then you got Cyborg, and you got the Flash, and it's just there's so much there that it's like, how do you not jump at that? I mean, you're just printing money right there, pretty much.
There you go. I mean, sure.
Yep. See, you got to listen, Warner Brothers. Hey, our HBO Max, Deathstroke, #Deathstroke HBO Max. So we got all that. So, you did a movie with a certain director that's within this world too, called Sabotage, with director David Ayer, and of course he's got a version of Suicide Squad that we hope to get out sooner or later. Who knows when that's going to happen? But how was it working with David Ayer? First off, on Sabotage.
How was it working with David on Sabotage?
Yeah.
David is a lot like me in terms of process, in which if something exists in real life or a profession exists in real life, then you have an obligation to go and study that, so that someone who does that profession would look at you and think, wow, that guy did a great job in portraying me and what I do at work. So all too often I have to like shut the TV off, or I've actually stopped watching TV shows that I was heavily invested into because I cannot stand the gun handling. It drives me out of my mind. I mean, I can't even tell. It's like there's a sheriff or a police officer in your group, and people are muzzling other people, talking with their hands, with the gun, with the finger on the trigger. And it's like, oh my
Drives
God,
you up
like it makes me insane. It takes me out, and it's just lazy actor stuff.
Yeah.
And, that's why I really love David, because, David hooked it up so that, I was doing ride-alongs with narcotics, and I was in on busts I should not have been in the car for, like, for sure, and I saw things that were very privileged information. Let me just put it that way.
Holy shit. Yeah.
I'm not going to say more about it because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but also, like, we're working out with the sheriff's department, going from shotgun to sidearm, and, just drilling repeatedly the way that the officers would. And, part of Sabotage was we learned how to sweep buildings, which is an art form, to the point where you go to sleep dreaming about the different permutations. And I could have taken that corner differently. I should have taken that room differently. Every room is different. Every house is different. Every property is different. And when you really start getting into that headspace, there are right answers. There is a way that they move. There is a way that they think. And if you're not portraying that, you're not really doing the job. And what I love about David is his attention to detail, and also the access that he gives you. So, it was everything from, I'd wake up, go powerlifting, eat a huge breakfast, and then go do 2 hours of stand-up kickboxing and ground fighting with like 5 fresh martial artists, and each round, each one would tap in. And mind you, I was like in the craziest shape of my life. I was like 250 pounds, like thick neck, like, and I would just get in there and fight with these guys all day, then go to the shooting range, shotguns, handguns, or we go outdoor and I get to shoot the FN Scar Heavy, which my character carries in the film, which is a really, really like amazing weapon system. And, so I really loved, the access that David gives you And there's a real freedom and creativity. I think once you get your work done in that way, then there is a lot of freedom and creativity. And so in working with him, so he's a fun director to work with on set.
He seems like it.
It was very educational and such a cool process.
How was working with Arnold?
Well, Arnold and I became best friends off that shoot. So
there it is. I knew it.
Yeah, I had just been offered a bodybuilding to write a bodybuilding book for Simon and Schuster, and I was
wow.
I kind of decided yes, I'm going to do it, and boom, there's Arnold sitting next to me in the makeup trailer, and he said, what's going on with this new in your life? There's, telling me everything. I was like, well, Arnold, I'm writing a bodybuilding book for Simon and Schuster, and and he's like, if you need anything, I'll write the foreword, whatever you need, and so we became friends that way to the point where, like, in on movie sets, when you go to eat, it's like a prison, right? You all get in line with your tray, you put the food on the tray, and then you go and you look for your seat. Yeah. And Arnold has his entourage, and I remember one day he looked over his shoulder and saw me with my tray of food, and then shoved the tray of the person next to him over and pushed them off of their seat and pointed to me like, come sit here. Like we were in, prison.
Do it.
And I went over and sat next to Arnold. And every day after that, I sat next to Arnold at lunch, and then he started inviting me out to dinner, and we'd go on trips together, and we'd travel the world and come to my house and come to my holiday party. Let's smoke some stogies. I won a poker tournament that was at his house one year.
What the hell?
Professional poker players in it. Like, we just, he's the best. I mean, he is worth the price of admission. He is a true icon. He is all that and a bag of chips. Like he is worthy of the title of icon. He's just something else.
Seriously. I mean, if your Deathstroke happens, man, there's your wintergreen right there. If you think about it, that'd be an Arnold Schwarzenegger wintergreen. I'd like that. Come on, Slade, you got to do this. Come on, that could be. See, fun. I have ideas, Joe. I have ideas. All right. Before we get to the fan questions, I just got to ask one more thing. What would Slade Wilson's favorite Metallica song be?
All right. The microphone did that thing again. So
Damn it.
Give me the question one more time.
Okay. So what would Slade Wilson's favorite Metallica song be?
What would Slade Wilson's favorite Metallica song be?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that comes to mind would be probably Disposable Heroes.
Yes. Oh my God. I was going to say that one. Yes. Sorry. I got excited.
Yes. It would be Disposable Heroes, about the way that the government treated him after his years of service.
Yeah.
Soldier Boy made of clay, now an empty shell, only son. Yeah.
Yeah. God. I was like, when I thought about that question, I'm like, it's either going to be Disposable Heroes or Damage Incorporated. I don't know. One of those two maybe will be Slade's favorite song. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead.
Favorite album, Master of Puppets. So there you
go. Exactly. I mean, when it comes to my favorite song, it's always going to be Battery, just because I just love just that build up, that the way that song.
Fight Fire with Fire.
Fight Fire.
It's about nuclear Armageddon, but the metaphor of it could work.
Yes, that's a good song too. Fight fire with fire. Yeah. Ending is near. Yeah. Yeah, man. We could just nerd out on Metallica all day long, but we're going to bring in Meg to read off some fan questions. So, hi, Meg.
Hi. There was a ton of fan questions. So, the first one is from the Bat channel. Were we going to get any backstory for Deathstroke and the Batman and his hatred for Batman?
The backstory for the Batman film, I mean, the way it was written at the time I read the script was that Batman is blamed by Slade for the death of his son. Slade's son is killed, and there were some events that led up to, that led back to Bruce, led back to Batman, that he had a hand in it, that he was partially responsible for it, and that Slade blamed him. And so Slade was, word was on the street that Slade wanted to kill Batman, and that's why Lex Luthor summons him to the yacht, to give him a key piece of information that could help Lex out as well.
Pretty key.
Slade would potentially get rid of Batman for him.
Nice.
Sweet. I got a couple more for you. This is from Philip Barker. Deathstroke has always been a staple in the DC pantheon. How did you approach bringing this character to fruition?
What was the last part of that?
How did you approach bringing this character to fruition?
How did I approach bringing the character to fruition? I mean, I would say that my process was probably closer to what I assumed the process was like on the Nolan films. You know, you're trying to understand what the character means in terms of that pantheon or of that ensemble. You know, what's important to the story and what isn't. You know, and then also you're trying to ground it. So the way I would look at that would be, for example, like what Tom Hardy and Christopher Nolan did with Bane. You know, he wasn't this lucha libre mask wearing, you know.
Yeah, with all the venom.
Tubes of steroids, you know. Yeah. I mean, that can work in a comic book or a cartoon, but it doesn't really work when you're trying to ground this thing in reality. Yeah. And what I always enjoy about science fiction movies or fantasy films is when you can see reality, or they're anchored to reality, because then, you know, you picture maybe this could happen in real life. Yeah. Even though it's far-fetched, even though it's supernatural, there's still a grounding to Heath Ledger's Joker. There's a grounding, you know, as big as the character is to Tom Hardy's Bane. And so I was approaching the character, I think, from that tone in which I wanted him to be real. But for example, like, you know, there was discussion within the prop department about him having like a He-Man sword, like some big fantasy.
I have the power. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, no, you know, I need to keep him grounded. Otherwise, this character is going to float away and it's going to look like a caricature, like a living cartoon. And for me as an actor, I can't access that. Same thing with his sidearm. You know, there was like a big, like Yosemite Sam revolver with these big, like bullet chambers, like that big. And it was like, guys, I need a 6 Sauer 45 caliber, you know, on my side that he would have carried when he was in the Navy or with the SEALs or in special ops. And so it was just those little touches of grounding that I was doing to try to lay the tracks down. Because, you know, I only got to play the character very briefly. Mm-hmm. So it was really important for me to, you know, at least establish as much as I could in that brief time that I had on film before we got into, you know, the actual filming. But I think for me, the more realistic, the better. I need to ground things in reality, which is also part of the fun for me. Like I talked about the David Ayer type of training and research that goes on. And I was approaching it from the same way. It was like, what branch of the military? Where was he? Where did he serve? Who did he fight against? You know, you're talking about like Scooter Libby, emails, you know what I mean? Like all of those things that make the military or kind of a rip from the headlines, you know, in today's world, I was trying to incorporate in order to really ground this character. And also I think that gives him a fresh look and a fresh take as well. Yeah. You know, there was such curiosity when the Nolan films were coming out as to what are they going to do with these villains, or what's that all about? And, man, exactly. That looks different, and that's, you know, so it was really going to, you know, I was really excited because it was really going to be, you know, me and that process that I'm talking about. I was going to get to put my stink on it.
Yeah, I mean, and how much katana training did you? How many hours of katana training did you put in so far?
Well, as much as I could until you know, until the show was over. Until I knew that it was going to happen. But yeah, I was studying katanas at one of the few ninjutsu schools anywhere that it really teaches traditional katana. And I was working out with like you know, they would soak bamboo overnight and to give there's a, you know, it's about the same thickness or as a
same feel, yeah,
as human bone. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, you're trained to cut through the bamboo the way that you would cut through, a person. So this is like an age-old tradition. And so this place actually knew the process of soaking the bamboo. So you get in there, focus your chi and, make your cuts. And I was learning all of the different various cuts and
See, you know what? See, this Ben Affleck was just scared. That's all. He saw what he was up against, and he was like, "No, we're not doing this." No, but all right. Another question, Meg.
Joshua Van Dyne asks, "Do you also hope to fight the Teen Titans in a movie, or is Batman the only foe you want to face?"
Well, in my origin story, there was no Batman. I mean, there could have been Batman, but it wasn't about Batman. It would have been prior to the events of Ben's Batman. So I'm more interested in going back to, like I said, like what interests me, I think, is who could this character be in the real world? What would it be like to be public enemy number one, to have to live off the grid? Is that possible? What lengths would you have to go to hide your identity? An assassin. Like, that's not a word that people in the military or people who do mercenary work use. So right away, that word has to go out the door. And in an effort to make this thing realistic. So, what happens when this, like I said, it's almost like if anybody knows the novel First Blood or the movie First Blood. I'm not talking about Rambo Part 2. I'm talking about the first one, where you're talking about a Vietnam veteran who comes home from war to find a country that doesn't want him, and people that are really giving him a hard time. And it's almost like the country that he gave his life to, devoted his life to, had turned on him and put him into a corner to which he becomes the villain of the film. And it's really it's like a story about Frankenstein, really, if you want to. It's this monster that was created by the government. And then the townsfolk and the people, come out with the pitchforks and the torches.
Storm the castle.
Yeah. And so there was a bit of that, I think, in this story too. I think it was very much in my mind. It was like almost like a Tom Clancy version of First Blood, that instead of it taking place in the Pacific Northwest, would have taken place in Washington, D.C.
Nice. I'm going to bring in one of my buddies to ask you another question here. We got Steven. What is up, sir? Nice hat.
Hey.
Yeah,
thank you.
Hat.
Do I sound like
Steven
a caterpillar?
I know. Not that one. Not that. Yeah. He looks so much different. Yeah.
Yeah, right? I disappoint a lot of pizza delivery guys.
All right. What's the question, Steven?
So you're talking, what's really interesting about your character with Deathstroke, as opposed to like a lot of this other stuff that's going on with like the Restore the Snyderverse conversation, is that there's not as specific of a like there's multiple things in conversation. There's people want to see Ben Affleck's Batman movie, people want to see a Deathstroke origin movie, and they also want to see like what happens to Deathstroke in the Nightmare. So for you, I guess maybe it wouldn't be fair to say pick one and not the others, but if you had to prioritize what order they get done in the hypothetical situation where they could all happen, which one would you want to do first?
Deathstroke Origin. Deathstroke Origin is a series on HBO Max. Absolutely.
There it is.
I think it's
people.
Such a fun series, and I think people would absolutely love it. And there's not a lot out there like it right now, and it would have its own tone and kind of its own place within the universe. And I think it would be really fun for people to. I think it would, like I said, tonally, I think it would be very unique.
Oh yeah. You hear that, HBO Max? You hear that? Tonally unique. Come on, make it happen. Hashtag Deathstroke HBO Max. Do you have another question, Steven?
Well, I'm always curious because you it's a little bit of a change of subject, but you're obviously into all the D&D, and that's I've never played, but I'm very fascinated by the kind of community that's grown around it online with all the different podcasts and shows and stuff. And it's always funny in Hollywood. There's so many people who you wouldn't expect to be a hardcore D&D player. who you find out. Like, I know a lot of people were surprised when you first started talking about it more, and then Vin Diesel, I know, is another big one. How often do people kind of come to you and you're like, oh, I did not know you were you were into that? That are like other actors or creatives.
Yeah, I got involved with D&D because I wanted the rights to a series of novels that fell under their umbrella. So I was pursuing those novels when they were at Warner Brothers, and then when they moved over to Paramount. So that's really how I got involved with the company. And through that, I wound up being allowed to write a little bit,
that's awesome.
Game design a little bit, design some characters, basically the job that I wanted as a kid. And through that relationship, yes, I started speaking publicly. I remember telling the head of marketing who was in my kitchen one night, I said, I'm going to make Dungeons and Dragons so cool. You give me 1 year and I will make it so cool that no one will ever get beat up on the playground for saying they play D&D. And in fact, people like it'll be cool. The stigma will be gone. And in a year's time, that was, I went on Stephen Colbert's show to talk about my streetwear line and my capsule collection with Dungeons and Dragons. I went on James Corden. Variety did an article about my celebrity Friday night Dungeons and Dragons game that I would run for my friends in the industry. And so, but yeah, once I, quote unquote came out, everybody started coming to me. And everybody wanted to tell me their stories, and I found out who played and who didn't play, and who said they played a lot but really didn't. And you start figuring out who all those people are. And it was really fun because at the end of the day, the one thing that I found out, especially living in LA, that it was true for me as well, was that Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role playing games, like Over My Shoulder This Way. I own 2 of the paintings that were the originals for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game. That is the cover. That's the original painting for Transdimensional TMNT, which was painted by Kevin Long. And that above that is the 1985 watercolor by Kevin Eastman that became the cover of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles basic role-playing book. So anyway, I was kind of a fan of that as a kid. Because I think for me, it was my way of show running before that was a job, or it was my way of producing and directing and writing a long form narrative entertainment in fantasy before that was prevalent in film. You have to understand, this is prior to Lord of the Rings, prior to Game of Thrones. They hadn't perfected dragons on camera or any sort of like real high fantasy. It was just too expensive and too difficult, and the technology wasn't there. So, for me to get in and be able to create a storyline as a kid, it was the job that I wanted before I knew it was even possible. Character development, I run a game, Dan Weiss and Dave Benioff played in my game, and Dan's a regular. And, so I get to show run my show for them where they're playing actors in my show. After watching their show for 8 seasons, so that's wild. And also Vince Vaughn, that was the way that he learned how to develop a character prior to becoming an actor, and that's James Gunn, Brad Payton, they've all played at my house, and those are guys that really I think learned how to direct and world build from these tabletop role playing games. So I think it's such a great creative pursuit for kids, and it was for me. And even as an adult, it's like on a whole other level, because when you're talking about the story building and the acting or the characters that come out of people who are working as professionals and are some of the biggest stars on the planet and showrunners on the planet, the games are legendary. I mean, they're absolutely like, oh my God, it's so much fun. It's our show that would, a new episode would air every Friday just for us. And, it's been such a blast to be a part of.
I guess that's another HBO Max series.
That's what I was about to say. We need this show right here, man.
Where it's
Joe's D&D, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll see.
But I think,
we'll see.
Yeah, see that. Let's pitch that show too. And I think this is a good place to wrap it up. We're already like an hour in, and like I said, everyone, Thank you for donating. We're at 4,000. What are we at, Meg?
Let me pull it up here.
It's like 4,800.
Top
Yeah,
of the
I
chest.
think we're almost. Yeah, I
At
think
5?
we're almost to 5.
We're almost at
Get to
5,000.
5, guys.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this
Good
will
job.
get us over the top and get.
There
us to
you
5,000.
go. There he is. Look at that
Bubbles.
beast. Bubbles.
Yeah,
Oh
Bubbles.
my god, it's so cute.
There you go. So that's enough for a donation, guys. Right there. For Bubbles, right there. Come on now.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Pull
Joe,
that
this
out
has
of
been a
stuff.
pleasure, man. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for spending time with us. Meg, again, thank you for, pretty much helping putting this up. And Steven, thank you for joining and asking the hard question of Dungeons and Dragons, man. But anyways, guys, we are going to wrap this up right here. And the next panel should be Scott and Harry Lennox, right?
Yep.
Harry Lennox. See, I wonder what. I wonder what Harry Lennox's favorite Metallica song is. That'd be a good question to ask right there. Yeah.